Hide my sister." The boy's blood dripped onto Jasper's boots. 3 words. That's all he managed before his knees hit the dirt. "They killed Pa. Burned everything. She's 8 years old, mister. 8. And she ain't spoke a single word since Mama died." His fingers clawed at Jasper's ankle, leaving red streaks on the worn leather. "Please, I'm begging you. When they come, and they're coming, just hide her. That's all I ask. Hide her and let me die." Jasper McAllister reached for his rifle. "Ain't nobody dying tonight, son, and I don't hide." Subscribe to my channel and comment the city where you're watching. Let me see how far this story travels. The boy smelled like smoke and copper. Jasper caught him before he hit the ground, feeling the wet heat of blood soak through his shirt. The wound ran deep across the shoulder. Not a cut from falling, not a scrape from wire. Someone had taken a blade to this child, with purpose. "Easy now." Jasper lowered him to the porch. "I got you." "No time." The boy grabbed his collar, pulling him close. His breath came in ragged gasps. "My sister, the creek, big rocks, she's hiding." "How many men?" 5, maybe 6. His voice cracked. "Crane's men. They want our land. Pa said no, so they—" He didn't finish. Didn't have to. "What's your name, son?" "Sam. Samuel Thornton." "All right, Sam." Jasper pulled off his bandana and pressed it against the wound. "Hold this. Don't move." "Mister—" "Name's Jasper, and I said don't move." He grabbed the Winchester from the doorframe and moved toward the tree line. 8 years since he'd held this rifle with intent. 8 years of quiet, of solitude, of pretending the past couldn't find him here. The past always found you. He knew that now. The creek wasn't far, 1/4 mile through cottonwoods, following the sound of water over stone. Jasper moved fast but quiet, the way he'd learned in the war, the way a man moved when noise meant death. He found her wedged between 2 boulders, small as a shadow. Dark hair tangled with leaves, dress torn and dirty. A rag doll clutched against her chest, button eyes staring at nothing. She didn't scream when she saw him, didn't run, just looked up with eyes that had seen too much, understood too much, felt too much. "Eleanor?" Nothing, not even a blink. "Your brother sent me. I'm taking you somewhere safe." She studied his face for a long moment. Then, slowly, she extended her hand. Her fingers were ice cold, trembling. But she held on tight, and Jasper felt something crack open in his chest. Something he'd kept locked away for years. "Come on, little one. Let's get you warm." They made it back to the cabin just as the last light bled from the sky. Sam was still on the porch, pale as bone, the bandana soaked through with red. "Ellie!" The girl released Jasper's hand and ran to her brother. Sam caught her with his good arm, burying his face in her hair. His shoulders shook, but he made no sound. Jasper watched them for a moment. Then he turned and scanned the horizon. Nothing moved. Yet. "Inside, both of you, now!" The cabin was small. 1 room, stone fireplace, bed in the corner. Not much, but the walls were solid. Jasper had built them himself, back when he'd still believed walls could keep the world out. He sat Sam down and went to work on the wound. Whiskey to clean it, needle and thread to close it. The boy hissed through his teeth, but didn't cry out. Tough kid. Too tough for 13. "Who did this to you?" Jasper asked, tying off the last stitch. "Man named Dawson. Works for Crane." Sam's jaw tightened. "Said he was teaching me a lesson about running." "Just Dawson?" "The others were busy." His voice went flat. killing Pa, burning our house. Jasper's hands stilled. Your pa's dead? Yeah. The word hung in the air, heavy as stone. Ellie made a small sound, not words, just a soft whimper. She pressed closer to her brother, her face hidden against his chest. She saw it, Sam whispered. Not Pa. That happened too fast. But Mama. 6 months ago. Fever took her, and Ellie was right there when... He swallowed hard. She ain't said one word since. Not to me, not to nobody. Jasper looked at the girl. She was watching him now, those dark eyes following his every move. Silent, vigilant, like a wild thing deciding whether to trust or flee. She'll talk when she's ready, Jasper said. You don't know that. No, but I believe it. Sam studied him, searching. Why are you helping us, mister? You don't know us. You don't owe us nothing. Reckon that's true. Then why? Jasper set down the needle and leaned back. The fire crackled, throwing shadows across the walls. I was in the war, he said. Union Army. Did things I ain't proud of. Saw things that still wake me up at night. He paused. After it ended, I came out here. Built this place. Figured if I stayed away from folks, I couldn't hurt nobody else. Did it work? No. Jasper's voice was quiet. Turns out running from your sins don't erase them. Just gives them time to grow. Sam was silent for a moment. Then, so helping us, that's what? Making up for something? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being the kind of man who walks away when someone needs help. Before Sam could respond, Jasper heard it. Hoofbeats. Distant, but growing. Get down. His voice went hard. Away from the windows. Sam grabbed Ellie's hand and pulled her to the floor, pressing against the far wall. The girl didn't make a sound, but her fingers tightened around that rag doll until her knuckles went white. Jasper moved to the door and cracked it open. 5 riders, spread out across the road, silhouettes against the dying sky. The one in front sat tall on a black horse. Fine animal, well-fed, the kind that cost more than most men earned in 3 years. Victor Crane. Jasper had heard the name. Mining company man from back east. The kind who wore clean clothes and kept soft hands while other men did his killing. Evening, Crane's voice carried easy, almost pleasant. Beautiful night, wouldn't you say? Jasper stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. Can I help you? I certainly hope so. Crane urged his horse forward a few steps. We're looking for some children. A boy and a girl. Runaways, you understand. Caused quite a stir back in town. Ain't seen no children. No? Crane tilted his head. Peculiar. Their trail led straight to your door. Trails can lie. One of the other riders, wiry man, scar down his face, spat into the dirt. He's lying, Mr. Crane. I can smell it on him. Crane raised a hand, silencing him. Now, let's not be hasty. He turned back to Jasper, smile widening. I'm a reasonable man, a businessman. I understand that good people sometimes make questionable choices. Get to the point. Very well. The pleasantness dropped from Crane's voice like a mask falling away. Those children's father owed me money, a substantial debt. When he refused to pay, consequences were administered. Unfortunately, the children witnessed those consequences. You understand my predicament. I understand you killed a man in front of his kids. I did what was necessary. Crane's eyes glittered in the fading light. Progress demands sacrifice, Mr. McAllister. Mr. McAllister. Crane leaned forward in his saddle. Hand over the children, and you can return to your quiet life. Refuse, and I'll burn this place to the ground with you inside it. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The wind picked up, carrying dust and the first hints of smoke from somewhere distant. Jasper thought about the children behind him, about Sam's bloody shoulder and Ellie's haunted silence, about all the times in his life he'd looked away, walked away, let someone else carry a burden that should have been his. Not tonight. "Get off my land," he said. Crane's expression flickered. "You're making a fatal mistake, old man." "Wouldn't be my first." "No, I don't suppose it would." Crane wheeled his horse around, gesturing to his men. "Very well. You have until dawn to reconsider. After that—" He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The riders melted into the darkness, hoofbeats fading until the night swallowed them whole. Jasper stood watching until he was certain they were gone. Then he went back inside. Sam and Ellie were still pressed against the wall, two small figures in the lamplight. The boy's arm was wrapped around his sister, protective, defiant. "They'll come back," Sam said. "I know." "Before dawn." "Probably." Sam's jaw tightened. "Then what do we do?" Jasper crossed to the far corner of the room and pulled back the rug, revealing a trap door. "There's a tunnel under here. Leads out to the creek, about 100 yards from the house." "You want us to run?" "I want you to survive." Jasper met the boy's eyes. "If things go bad, you take your sister through that tunnel and you don't stop until you reach town. Find Sheriff Whitmore. Tell him everything." Sam shook his head. "I ain't leaving you to fight alone." "Yes, you are." "No." The word came out fierce, raw. "Pa told me to run. Pa told me to hide. And now Pa's dead. I ain't running again." Jasper studied him. This boy who'd already lost everything, who was trying so hard to be a man when he should still be a child. "Your pa died so you could live," Jasper said quietly. "That's not something to be ashamed of." "It feels like it." "I know." He put a hand on Sam's shoulder. "Believe me, son, I know. But the best way to honor your pa ain't dying beside a stranger. It's living. It's taking care of your sister. It's growing up to be the kind of man he would have been proud of." Sam's eyes glistened. "And what about you?" "I'll be fine." "You don't know that."
"No," Jasper almost smiled. "But I'm too old and too mean to die easy."
A sound made them both turn. Ellie had moved closer, so quiet neither of them had noticed. She stood there, clutching her doll, those dark eyes fixed on Jasper's face. Then, slowly, deliberately, she reached out and touched his hand. Just for a moment, just a brush of small, cold fingers against his calloused palm. It wasn't words, but it was something. Jasper felt his throat tighten. "I'll keep you safe, little one, I promise." She didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. The hours crept by. Jasper sat by the window, rifle across his lap, watching the darkness. Behind him, Sam had finally convinced Ellie to sleep, or at least to close her eyes. The boy sat beside her, one hand resting on her back, the other wrapped around the knife Jasper had given him. Midnight came and went. The moon rose, fat and pale, casting silver light across the land. And then Jasper saw it. A flicker of orange at the edge of his property. Small at first, barely visible, then growing, spreading. Fire. They were burning the fields. "Sam," his voice was calm, controlled. "Wake your sister." The boy was on his feet instantly, shaking Ellie awake. The girl came alert, fast, too fast for a child her age. She'd learned to sleep with one eye open. "The tunnel," Jasper said. "Now." "But—" "Now, Sam." The boy grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her toward the trap door. Jasper lifted the heavy wooden panel, revealing the ladder descending into darkness. "Follow it to the end. Don't stop. Don't look back." Sam helped Ellie onto the ladder, then paused. "Jasper? Go." "Thank you," the boy's voice cracked. "For everything." Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows below. Jasper closed the trap door and dragged the rug back into place. Through the window, he could see the fire spreading, painting the night in shades of orange and red. The smoke was already thickening, carrying the smell of everything he'd built, turning to ash. He checked his rifle. 6 rounds in the chamber, revolver on his hip, fully loaded, hunting knife in his boot. It wasn't enough, not against 5 armed men and an inferno. But it would have to do. He opened the door and stepped outside. The heat hit him first, dry, searing, stealing the breath from his lungs. The fire had spread faster than he'd expected, a wall of flame advancing across his property like a living thing. And walking through it, unhurried, untouched, came Victor Crane. The man looked almost casual, hands in his pockets, coat flapping in the hot wind. Behind him, 4 riders had dismounted, spreading out to flank the cabin. "Last chance," Crane called out over the roar of the flames. "Hand them over, and I'll call off the fire. You have my word." Jasper raised his rifle. "Your word ain't worth spit." "Perhaps not." Crane stopped, maybe 20 yards away. "But it's all you've got." "Reckon I've got something else." "And what's that?" Jasper sighted down the barrel, centering on Crane's chest. 6 bullets, he said, and not a damn thing left to lose. Crane's smile faded. Something cold and reptilian slid into place behind his eyes. "Kill him." Gunfire split the night. The first bullet tore through the air where Jasper's head had been a heartbeat before. He hit the ground rolling, came up behind the water trough, and fired twice. One shot went wide. The other found its mark. A rider on the left screamed and went down, clutching his thigh. "Spread out!" Crane's voice cut through the chaos. "Flank him!" Jasper didn't wait to see them move. He scrambled toward the woodpile, keeping low, feeling the heat of the fire pressing against his back. Bullets chewed into the logs as he dove behind them, splinters biting into his cheek. 4 men left, maybe 3 if the one he'd hit stayed down. He checked his rifle. 4 rounds. Not good odds. A shadow moved to his right. Jasper swung the Winchester and fired, but the man was already gone, melting back into the smoke. They were circling him, using the fire and darkness to close in. "You're making this harder than it needs to be, McAllister." Crane's voice came from somewhere ahead, calm despite the gunfire. "Those children aren't worth dying for." Jasper pressed his back against the woodpile, breathing hard. The smoke was getting thicker now, burning his eyes and throat. He could feel the heat intensifying, the fire creeping closer. "Every child's worth dying for," he called back. "Reckon you wouldn't understand that." A laugh, cold and sharp. Sentiment. How quaint. Movement to his left. Jasper spun and fired. Another scream, another body hitting the dirt. But in the same instant, pain exploded through his side. He looked down and saw blood spreading across his shirt, dark and wet. Grazed. Maybe worse. He pressed a hand against the wound and kept moving. The barn was 20 yards away. If he could reach it, he'd have better cover, better angles. But 20 yards felt like a mile with bullets flying and his side burning like hellfire. He ran anyway. Halfway there, something slammed into his leg. He stumbled, caught himself, kept going. The barn door was open. He threw himself through it and collapsed against the wall, gasping. Blood everywhere now. His side, his leg, dripping onto the hay-strewn floor. "You're hit." A voice from the shadows made him jerk up his rifle. "Easy, easy." The voice came again, and a figure stepped into the dim light filtering through the barn slats. The scarred man. Dawson. The one who'd cut Sam. Jasper's finger tightened on the trigger. Give me one reason not to kill you. Because I ain't here to fight. Dawson's hands were empty, raised at his sides. His eyes darted toward the barn door, then back. I'm done with this.
Done? I seen plenty of killing in my time. Done plenty myself.
The man's voice was rough, tired. But hunting children? Burning a man out of his home for refusing to give them up? He shook his head. That ain't something I can live with. Jasper kept the rifle trained on him. You cut that boy. Left him bleeding in the dirt. I know. Dawson's jaw tightened. Ain't proud of it. But Crane was watching. If I didn't do it, someone else would have done worse. That's supposed to make it right? No. The word came out heavy. Nothing makes it right. But I can try to make it less wrong. Outside, voices shouted. Boots pounded against dirt. Crane's men were regrouping, searching. They'll find you in here, Dawson said. Crane's got 2 men left, plus himself. They ain't gonna stop until you're dead. Then I'll take as many as I can with me. Or you could let me help. Jasper studied him. The scar, the weathered face, the guilt carved into every line. He'd seen that look before. In mirrors, mostly. Why? He asked. Why turn on your own people? They ain't my people, Dawson's voice hardened. Crane pays me. That don't make him my kin. He paused, something flickering in his eyes. I had a boy once, about Sam's age when the fever took him. His mama followed a year later. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just... He trailed off, then met Jasper's eyes. Just let me help. Please. For a long moment, the only sounds were the crackle of flames and the distant shouts of Crane's men. Then Jasper lowered the rifle. There's a tunnel, he said. Under the cabin. The children are already through it. Leads to the creek. Dawson nodded. I know the creek. Big rocks on the eastern bank? That's where I told them to hide. I'll find them. Get them to safety. And Crane? You want him dead? Jasper's jaw tightened. I want those children safe. Whatever that takes. Dawson held his gaze for a moment, then turned toward the back of the barn. There's a loose board in the corner. Leads out to the pasture. Crane's men are focused on the front. You can slip out, circle around. And you? I'll draw their attention. Give you time. That's a death sentence. Maybe. Dawson almost smiled. But like I said, I got plenty to make up for. He was gone before Jasper could respond, slipping through the front door and into the firelight. A moment later, gunshots rang out, followed by shouting. Jasper didn't waste the chance. He found the loose board, pried it open, and squeezed through into the darkness beyond. His legs screamed with every step. His side throbbed, but he kept moving. The pasture grass was tall enough to hide him if he stayed low, and the smoke provided cover. Behind him, the gunfire continued. 3 shots. 4. Then silence. He didn't look back. The creek appeared through the smoke like a silver ribbon, moonlight dancing on the water. Jasper followed it east, keeping to the shadows, until he saw the boulders rising up from the bank. Sam? No answer. Sam, it's Jasper. You can come out. For a long moment, nothing. Then a small figure emerged from between the rocks, knife in hand, eyes wild. Jasper! Sam's voice cracked with relief. We heard the shooting. We thought... I'm all right. It was mostly a lie, but the boy didn't need to know that. Where's your sister? Sam turned and called softly into the darkness. Ellie, it's okay. He's here. The girl appeared, pale and trembling, still clutching that rag doll. When she saw Jasper, something shifted in her expression. Not quite relief, but close. "We need to move," Jasper said. "Can you walk?" Sam nodded. "Where are we going?" "Town. Sheriff Whitmore." "That's 5 miles." "I know." "You're bleeding." Jasper looked down at himself. His shirt was soaked through, dark stains spreading across his side and leg. The world swayed slightly, and he grabbed a boulder to steady himself. "I'll manage," he said. "Let's go." They moved along the creek, staying in the shadows. Sam took the lead, one hand gripping Ellie's, the other clutching the knife. The boy moved quiet, careful. He'd learned fast how to survive. Jasper brought up the rear, rifle ready, every step sending fresh bolts of pain through his body. He could feel himself weakening, the blood loss taking its toll. But he kept his eyes on the children, kept putting one foot in front of the other. They'd made it maybe a mile when Sam stopped suddenly, holding up a hand. "Someone's coming." Jasper heard it too, hoofbeats, approaching fast. He pushed past Sam and raised the rifle, sighting down the road. A single rider emerged from the darkness. Jasper's finger tightened on the trigger, then froze. The rider was Dawson. He was slumped in the saddle, one arm hanging limp, blood dripping from his fingertips. But he was alive. "Easy," Dawson called out, his voice weak. "It's me." "I thought you were dead. Takes more than Crane's boys to put me down." He pulled the horse to a stop and nearly fell out of the saddle. Sam rushed forward to catch him. "Easy, son. I'm all right." "You don't look all right," Sam said. "Yeah, well," Dawson managed a pained smile. "You should see the other guys." Jasper limped closer. "Crane?" "Got away. Took off when he realized his men were done for." Dawson's expression darkened. "He'll be back, though. Men like him don't let things go." "Then we need to keep moving." "You ain't in any shape to walk 5 miles." Dawson gestured toward the horse. "Take her. She's strong. Can carry all 3 of you if you go slow." Jasper shook his head. "What about you?" "I'll manage." Dawson lowered himself to the ground, leaning against a tree. "Got a cabin about a mile south of here. I can make it. Crane knows where you live. Crane thinks I'm dead. Let him keep thinking it." Sam was watching the exchange, his eyes darting between the 2 men. "You're the one who cut me," he said suddenly, "back at our farm." Dawson met his gaze. "Yeah, I am." "Why?" "Because I was a coward." No excuses, no explanations, just the raw truth. "I did what Crane told me because I was scared of what he'd do if I didn't. That ain't a reason. It's barely even an excuse. But it's the truth." Sam's jaw tightened. Jasper could see the anger burning in his eyes, the desire for revenge warring with something else, something that looked almost like understanding. "My pa used to say that a man ain't defined by his worst moment," Sam said slowly. "He's defined by what he does after." Dawson's throat worked. "Your pa sounds like he was a good man." "He was," Sam's voice cracked. "The best." For a moment, no one spoke. The creek bubbled beside them, indifferent to human pain. Then Sam extended his hand. Dawson stared at it like he'd never seen a hand before. "Son." "I ain't forgiven you," Sam said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But you helped us tonight. That counts for something." Slowly, Dawson reached out and took the boy's hand. His grip was weak, trembling, but his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "Thank you," he whispered. Ellie had been watching in silence, as always, but now she stepped forward, reaching into the pocket of her torn dress. She pulled out a small object and held it up toward Dawson. A button, brass, tarnished, shaped like a tiny star. Dawson looked at it, confused. "What's this for?" Ellie didn't speak, but she pressed the button into his palm and closed his fingers around it, her small hands gentle but firm. It was the first time she'd willingly touched anyone besides Sam and Jasper. "She wants you to have it," Sam said quietly. "I don't know why, but she does." Dawson stared at the button, then at the little girl. His face crumpled, and for a moment he looked like a man who'd just been handed something precious beyond measure. "I'll keep it safe," he said, his voice thick. "I swear I will." Jasper put a hand on Sam's shoulder. "We need to go." The boy nodded. He helped Jasper onto the horse first, then lifted Ellie up behind him. Finally, he climbed on himself, settling in front. "You know how to ride?" Jasper asked. "Pa taught me." "Then ride, fast as she can carry us." Sam took the reins, clicked his tongue, and the horse started forward. Jasper looked back once, seeing Dawson still sitting against that tree, the brass button clutched in his hand. Then the night swallowed him, and they were alone on the dark road. They rode for what felt like hours, but was probably less than one. The horse was strong, like Dawson had said, and Sam handled her well. But Jasper could feel himself fading, the blood loss and exhaustion pulling him toward darkness. "Stay awake," Sam called over his shoulder. "Don't you dare fall asleep on me." "Wasn't planning on it." "Liar." The boy's voice cracked slightly. "You're the worst liar I ever met." "Your pa must not have introduced you to many folks." Sam laughed, a short, broken sound, but a laugh nonetheless. "He always said honest men made terrible liars. Said it was a good problem to have." "Smart man." "Yeah," Sam's voice softened. "He was." Ellie was pressed between them, her small body warm against Jasper's chest. At some point, she'd grabbed hold of his shirt, her fingers twisted in the fabric like she was afraid he'd disappear if she let go. "How much farther?" Jasper asked. "Mile, maybe 2. I can see lights up ahead." "Town?" "Has to be." Jasper squinted into the darkness. Sure enough, there were lights in the distance. Faint, flickering, but unmistakably human. "We're gonna make it," Sam said, and there was wonder in his voice. "We're actually gonna make it." But even as he spoke, Jasper heard something that made his blood run cold. Hoofbeats. Behind them. Gaining fast. "Sam, I hear it. Can you go faster? She's already running full out." Jasper twisted in the saddle, ignoring the scream of pain from his wounds. Through the darkness, he could make out a single rider, pushing hard. Crane. "Keep going," Jasper said. "Don't stop for anything." "What are you going to do?" Jasper checked his rifle. 1 round left. 1 bullet against a man who'd already proven he was willing to kill anyone who stood in his way. "Whatever I have to." "Jasper, I said keep going." He swung his leg over and dropped from the horse, hitting the ground hard. Pain exploded through his body, white-hot and blinding, but he forced himself to his feet. "No!" Sam yanked on the reins, trying to stop. "I ain't leaving you." "You are." Jasper grabbed the horse's bridle and looked up at the boy. "You take your sister to town, find the sheriff, tell him everything." "But, Samuel," his voice was sharp, commanding. "Your pa gave his life so you could live. Don't waste it." Sam's face crumpled. Tears streamed down his cheeks, cutting tracks through the dirt. "You can't ask me to do this." "I ain't asking." Ellie made a sound, not words, but a desperate, keening noise that cut through Jasper like a blade. She reached toward him, her small hands grasping at air. He caught her fingers, squeezed them gently. "It's all right, little one. You're gonna be all right." She shook her head violently, tears spilling from those dark, haunted eyes. "I need you to be brave," Jasper said softly. "Can you do that for me? Can you be brave?" For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, slowly, She nodded. Good girl. He released her hand and stepped back. Now go. Both of you. Go. Sam hesitated for one more heartbeat. Then he kicked the horse into motion, and they were gone, disappearing into the darkness toward the distant lights. Jasper turned to face the approaching rider. Crane emerged from the night like a ghost, his black coat billowing behind him. He slowed his horse to a walk, stopping maybe 15 yards away. Just you and me now, he said. Appears so. You sent the children ahead. Admirable. Futile, but admirable. Jasper raised his rifle, sighting down the barrel. One bullet left. Reckon I ought to make it count. Crane smiled. You can barely stand. You've lost too much blood. Even if you fire, you'll miss. Maybe. Definitely. Crane drew his pistol, leveling it at Jasper's chest. But I won't. Neither man moved. The wind blew cold between them, carrying the smell of smoke and blood and something that might have been fear. Why? Jasper asked. Why go through all this for 2 children and a patch of dirt? Because they saw. Crane's voice hardened. They saw what I did to their father. They're witnesses. They're children. Children grow up. Children talk. Children remember. His finger tightened on the trigger. I can't afford witnesses, Mr. McAllister. Surely you understand. What I understand is that you're a coward. Jasper's voice was steady, despite the pain. You hire other men to do your killing. You burn people out of their homes. You hunt children through the night like animals. That ain't strength. That's weakness wearing a fancy coat. Something flickered in Crane's eyes. Anger, maybe, or wounded pride. Strong words from a dying man. I've been dying since the war ended. Jasper's grip on the rifle didn't waver. Every day, I wake up with ghosts in my head and blood on my hands. You think threatening me with death is going to make me flinch? Mister, I've been waiting for death to catch up with me for 10 years. Crane studied him for a long moment. Then why fight? Why not just let me have the children and be done with it? Because some things are worth more than living. Jasper thought of Sam's desperate courage, of Ellie's silent trust, of the way she'd pressed that button into Dawson's hand. Those children are worth more than my life. Worth more than yours. Sentimentality. Humanity. But I wouldn't expect you to know the difference. Crane's smile faded. His eyes went cold, flat, like a snake's. Goodbye, Mr. McAllister. He pulled the trigger. The shot rang out across the empty road, and Jasper fired back. Both men fell. Jasper hit the ground first, Crane's bullet tearing through his shoulder, spinning him sideways. The rifle flew from his grip, clattering against the hard-packed dirt. Pain exploded through his body, white, blinding, all-consuming. But he'd seen it. In that split second before he went down, he'd seen Crane jerk backward. He'd seen the dark bloom spreading across the man's chest. He'd hit him. Jasper lay on his back, staring up at the stars. His breath came in ragged gasps, each one sending fresh waves of agony through his wounded shoulder. Blood pooled beneath him, warm and wet, soaking into the earth. Get up. The voice in his head was distant, fading, but it was insistent. Get up. He might not be dead. Get up. He rolled onto his side, biting back a scream. His left arm was useless now, the shoulder shattered, but his right still worked. He dragged himself forward, inch by agonizing inch, toward where Crane had fallen. The mining man lay crumpled on the road, his fancy coat spread around him like dark wings. His pistol had fallen a few feet away, just out of reach of his twitching fingers. Jasper crawled closer. Crane's eyes were open, staring at the sky. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth with each labored breath. The bullet had taken him center mass, just above the heart, You shot me. Crane's voice was a wet rasp. You actually shot me. Told you I'd make it count. A laugh, choked and gurgling. So you did. Jasper collapsed beside him, too weak to move any further. They lay there together, two dying men on an empty road, the stars wheeling slowly overhead. I had everything, Crane whispered. Money, power, men who feared me. He turned his head, meeting Jasper's eyes. And you took it all away. A broken old soldier with nothing but a rifle and a death wish. Reckon that's all it takes sometimes. Crane's breath hitched. The children. They'll tell everyone what I did. That's the idea. My reputation. Don't matter much now, does it? For a long moment, Crane was silent. His chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven rhythms. Then, so quietly Jasper almost missed it, he spoke again. I wasn't always like this. Nobody is. I had a family once. A wife, a son. His voice cracked. They died. Cholera. Took them both in the same week. Jasper said nothing. There was nothing to say. After that, nothing mattered. People, land, money. It was all just things. Things to acquire. Things to control. Crane's eyes glistened. I thought if I had enough, if I owned enough, I could fill the hole they left behind. Did it work? No. A tear slid down Crane's temple, disappearing into his hair. It never works. You just keep taking, and the hole keeps getting deeper. His hand moved, trembling, reaching toward Jasper. For a moment, the old soldier tensed, expecting a weapon, a trick. But Crane's fingers simply closed around empty air. I'm scared, he whispered. I don't want to die alone. Jasper looked at him, this man who had killed and burned and hunted children through the night. This man who had destroyed everything Jasper had built. This man who was, in the end, just another broken soul trying to outrun his ghosts. Slowly, painfully, Jasper reached out and took his hand. You ain't alone. Crane's grip tightened. His breath rattled. And then, between one heartbeat and the next, he was gone. Jasper lay there, still holding the dead man's hand. The stars blurred above him, the world growing fuzzy at the edges. He could feel himself slipping away, the darkness pulling at him like a gentle tide. So this is how it ends, he thought, on a dirt road, holding the hand of my enemy. There were worse ways to go. He closed his eyes. And then, from somewhere far away, he heard voices. Over here! I found him! Hoofbeats, many of them, getting closer. Jasper! Jasper, can you hear me? A face swam into view above him, young, desperate, streaked with tears. Sam. He's alive! The boy's voice cracked. Sheriff, he's still alive! More faces now, rough hands lifting him, carrying him. Pain, distant and muffled, like it belonged to someone else. Easy now, a gravelly voice. Don't jostle him too much. Is he going to make it? Can't say, son. He's lost a lot of blood. The world tilted and swayed. Jasper felt himself being lifted onto something. A wagon, maybe. Straw beneath his back. A blanket pulled over his chest. And then a small hand slipped into his. Cold fingers, trembling, but holding on tight. Ellie. She won't leave him. Sam's voice, thick with emotion. She grabbed his hand and won't let go. Let her be. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. Jasper tried to speak, to tell them he was all right, to comfort the children who had already lost so much. But the words wouldn't come. The darkness was pulling at him again, stronger now, impossible to resist. The last thing he felt before unconsciousness took him was Ellie's hand in his, small and steady, refusing to let go. He woke to sunlight. It streamed through a window he didn't recognize, falling in golden bars across a bed that wasn't his. For a moment he lay still, confused, trying to piece together where he was and how he'd gotten there. Then the memories came flooding back. The fire, the gunfight, Crane's face in the moonlight, the children. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through his shoulder, his side, his leg. Everywhere Crane's men had left their marks. A groan escaped his lips before he could stop it. "Easy now," a woman's voice, soft but firm. "You ain't in any shape to be moving around." He turned his head and saw a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair, sitting in a chair beside the bed. She wore a simple dress, an apron tied at her waist, and she was holding a bowl of something that steamed gently. "Where am I?" "Doc Morrison's place. You've been out for 3 days." 3 days? "You nearly died, Mr. McAllister. Would have, if those children hadn't gotten you here when they did." The children. Jasper's heart clenched. "Sam and Ellie. Are they—" "They're fine," the woman smiled. "Better than fine, actually. The boys barely left your side since they brought you in. And the girl—" "What about her?" The woman's smile widened. "See for yourself." She gestured toward the corner of the room. Jasper turned his head and felt something break open in his chest. Sam sat in a worn armchair, his wounded shoulder bandaged, dark circles under his eyes. And curled up in his lap, fast asleep, was Ellie. Her face was peaceful, relaxed in a way Jasper had never seen before. One hand clutched her rag doll. The other rested on her brother's arm. "They've been taking turns watching over you," the woman said quietly. "Wouldn't hear of being anywhere else." Jasper's throat tightened. He tried to speak and found he couldn't. The woman seemed to understand. She rose, setting the bowl on the bedside table. "I'll give you some time. There's broth here when you're ready for it." She slipped out, closing the door softly behind her. For a long moment, Jasper just watched the children sleep. He thought about everything they'd been through. The fire, the fear, the loss of their father. He thought about Sam's desperate courage and Ellie's silent strength. He thought about how close he'd come to losing them. "You're awake." Sam's voice made him start. The boy's eyes were open now, watching him with an expression that was equal parts relief and exhaustion. "How long you been sitting there?" "A while." Sam shifted carefully, trying not to wake his sister. "Doc said you might not make it. Said the bullet did a lot of damage." "Takes more than a bullet to put me down." "That's what I told him." A ghost of a smile crossed Sam's face. "I said, you don't know Jasper McAllister. He's too stubborn to die." Jasper almost laughed, but the movement sent pain shooting through his chest. "Might have been right about that." Sam's expression grew serious. "Crane's dead." "I know." "Sheriff Whitmore found his body on the road. Found the others too. The men he sent after us." Sam's voice wavered. "It's over. It's really over." "What about Dawson?" "He's alive. Made it to town a few hours after we did." Sam paused. "He told the sheriff everything. How Crane was buying up land, threatening folks who wouldn't sell, killing those who fought back. The sheriff sent men to Crane's company headquarters, found all kinds of records, deeds he'd stolen, people he'd paid off." "So justice got served." "Some of it." Sam's jaw tightened. "Don't bring Pa back, though." "No, it doesn't." They sat in silence for a moment. Ellie stirred in her brother's lap, mumbling something unintelligible, then settled again. "What happens now?" Sam asked. "To us, I mean. We ain't got no home, no family, nothing." Jasper looked at him, This boy who had carried so much, who had been so brave, who was trying so hard to hold himself together. "You got family," Jasper said. Sam blinked. "What?" "You heard me." "Jasper, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to." Jasper's voice was rough but steady. "I want to, if you'll have me." Sam stared at him. His eyes glistened, his lip trembled, and for a moment he looked exactly like what he was. A 13-year-old boy who had lost everything and was terrified of hoping for anything. "You mean it?" His voice cracked. "You really mean it?" "I don't say things I don't mean, son." The word hung in the air between them. Son. It felt strange on Jasper's tongue. Strange, but right. Sam's face crumpled. He ducked his head, shoulders shaking, and Jasper saw tears dripping onto his sister's hair. "Hey now." Jasper reached out with his good arm, ignoring the pain, and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "None of that. We're going to be all right." "I know." Sam's voice was muffled. "I know. I thought we were alone. I thought nobody wanted us." "You ain't alone. Not anymore. And as for wanting you," Jasper squeezed his shoulder gently, "I didn't know how much I wanted you until you stumbled onto my porch, bleeding all over my boots." That got a laugh, watery, broken, but real. "Sorry about the boots. They'll wash." Sam lifted his head, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "What about Ellie? She still ain't talking. Doc says there might not be anything physically wrong with her. It's all in her head. Trauma, he called it. She'll talk when she's ready." "You keep saying that." "Because I believe it." Jasper looked at the sleeping girl, at her peaceful face and her tiny hands. She's been through things no child should ever see. She needs time. She needs safety. She needs to know that nobody's going to hurt her again. "And you think you can give her that?" "I think we can give her that. Together." Sam followed his gaze to his sister. "She trusts you, you know. I ain't never seen her trust anyone outside of family before." "Reckon that says something." "Yeah." Sam's voice was soft. "Reckon it does." Ellie stirred again. This time, her eyes fluttered open. She looked around, confused for a moment. Then her gaze found Jasper. She went very still. "Hey there, little one." Jasper kept his voice gentle. "How'd you sleep?" She didn't answer, of course, but she sat up slowly, climbing off her brother's lap, and walked to the edge of the bed. Her dark eyes studied Jasper's face, the bandages, the bruises, the exhaustion written in every line. Then she reached out and touched his cheek. Her fingers were warm this time, not cold and trembling like they'd been that night by the creek. Warm and steady and careful. "I'm all right," Jasper said. "I'm going to be fine." She nodded slowly, like she was confirming something she already knew. Then, without warning, she climbed onto the bed and curled up against his uninjured side, her head resting on his chest. Jasper's breath caught. "She ain't done that with nobody but me," Sam whispered, his voice thick. "Not since Mama died." Jasper couldn't speak. He just wrapped his good arm around the little girl and held her close, feeling her heartbeat against his ribs, small and fast, like a bird's, but strong, so strong. "I got you," he murmured into her hair. "I got you both, and I ain't ever letting go." The days that followed blurred together, a haze of sleep and broth and the doc changing his bandages. But through it all, the children were there. Sam, keeping watch by the window. Ellie, curled up beside him on the bed, her silent presence more comforting than any words could have been. Sheriff Whitmore came by on the fourth day, hat in hand, looking uncomfortable in the small sick room. "McAllister." "Sheriff?" "How you feeling?" "Like I got shot." Jasper shifted carefully, trying to sit up straighter. Several times. A ghost of a smile crossed Whitmore's weathered face. Yeah, that'll do it. He pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. Wanted to give you an update. Crane's mining company is finished. The territorial governor got involved once word spread about what happened. They're investigating everything. The land grabs, the murders, all of it. Good. The Thornton property's been cleared. Whitmore glanced at Sam, who had stopped pretending not to listen. It's theirs, free and clear. No debts, no claims against it. Sam's eyes widened. Really? Really. Your pa bought that land fair and square. Crane's lawyers tried to say otherwise, but the records don't lie. But the house, Sam's voice faltered. They burned it. Burned everything. Houses can be rebuilt. Whitmore looked at Jasper. Funny thing about that. Couple of folks in town have already offered to help. Seems like your little standoff made quite an impression. Jasper frowned. What do you mean? I mean people are talking, McAllister, about the old soldier who stood alone against Crane's men, who risked everything to protect 2 orphaned children. Whitmore shook his head. You're something of a hero around here now, whether you like it or not. I ain't no hero. Tell that to them, Whitmore nodded toward the door. There's been a steady stream of folks coming by asking after you, bringing food, blankets, supplies. Mrs. Patterson even started a collection to help rebuild the Thornton place. Jasper didn't know what to say. He'd spent so many years hiding from the world, convinced that he didn't deserve to be part of it. And now the world was showing up at his door anyway. There's one more thing, Whitmore said. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Dawson asked me to give you this. Jasper took it, unfolding it carefully. Inside was a short note, written in a rough, unpracticed hand. McAllister, I ain't much for words, so I'll keep this short. What you did that night, standing up when you could have walked away, that's something I ain't seen in a long time. Maybe ever. I'm leaving town. Got some things to sort out, ghosts to lay to rest. But I wanted you to know that you changed something in me. Showed me that it ain't too late to be something other than what I've been. Take care of those children. They're special. And thank you for everything. Dawson. P.S. The little girl's button is in my pocket. I'll keep it there until the day I die. Jasper read the note twice, then folded it and tucked it into his own pocket. He's a good man, Sam said quietly. Underneath it all. Reckon he's trying to be, Jasper looked at the boy. That's all any of us can do. Whitmore stood, returning his hat to his head. I'll let you rest. But McAllister, when you're back on your feet, come see me. Town could use a man like you. Doing what? Whatever needs doing, Whitmore smiled. We'll figure it out. He left, and silence settled over the room. Jasper lay back against the pillows, exhaustion pulling at him. Ellie was still curled against his side, her breathing slow and even. Jasper? Yeah, Sam? When you're better, when we rebuild the house, the boy hesitated. Will you stay? With us, I mean. Not just for a while. Forever. Jasper looked at him, this brave, broken, beautiful boy who had lost so much and still had the courage to hope. Yeah, he said. I'll stay. Sam's face lit up with a smile so bright it almost hurt to look at. Promise? Jasper reached out and ruffled the boy's hair. I promise. And somewhere deep in his chest, in that place he'd kept locked away for so long, something warm and bright began to grow. It felt, he realized, like coming home. 3 weeks later, Jasper stood on his own 2 feet for the first time since the shooting. It wasn't pretty. His legs shook like a newborn colt's, and he had to grip the bedpost so hard his knuckles went white. But he stood. And when Sam rushed over to help, Jasper waved him off. "I got it." "You're gonna fall." "Then I'll get back up." Sam hovered anyway, hands outstretched, ready to catch him. The boy had grown in the weeks since that terrible night. Taller, maybe, definitely broader in the shoulders. But it was more than physical. There was a steadiness to him now that hadn't been there before. "Doc says you shouldn't push yourself," Sam said. "Doc says a lot of things. He's usually right. And I'm usually stubborn." Jasper took a careful step forward. His legs screamed in protest, but it held. "See? Nothing to worry about. You're sweating. It's hot in here. It's November." Jasper shot him a look, and Sam raised his hands in surrender, fighting back a grin. All right. You win." "Damn right I do." From the corner of the room, a soft sound made them both turn. Ellie was sitting in the armchair, her rag doll in her lap, watching them with those dark, knowing eyes. And unless Jasper was imagining things, she was smiling. Not a big smile, not the kind of bright, carefree grin a child her age should have, but a smile nonetheless. The corners of her mouth turned up just slightly, a warmth in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "You think this is funny?" Jasper asked her. She nodded. "Yeah, well..." He took another shaky step. "Reckon I am pretty amusing, trying to walk like a drunk on a Sunday morning." Another nod. The smile widened, just a fraction. Sam was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her before. "She's smiling," he whispered. "Jasper, she's actually smiling." "I can see that." "She hasn't smiled since..." His voice caught. "Since before Mama got sick." Jasper looked at the little girl, at her tangled dark hair, her too thin frame, her eyes that had seen so much pain. And now, that tiny, precious smile. "She's healing," he said quietly. "Just like the rest of us." They started work on the Thornton place a week later. Jasper wasn't much use yet. He could barely walk across a room without needing to rest, let alone swing a hammer. But he insisted on being there, sitting in a chair Sam had dragged out from town, watching as the people of Miller's Creek descended on the burned-out property. And there were a lot of people. Mrs. Patterson came with her husband, hauling lumber in their wagon. The Hendricks brothers showed up at dawn, tools in hand, ready to frame out walls. Old man Cooper, who hadn't left his farm in 3 years, made the trip just to help lay the foundation stones. "Didn't know you had this many friends," Sam said, watching the organized chaos with wide eyes. "I don't." "Then why?" "Because that's what folks do out here." Jasper shifted in his chair, trying to find a position that didn't make his wounds ache. "When someone needs help, you help. Don't matter if you know them or not." "That ain't how it worked in our old town. People there just watched when Crane's men came. Didn't nobody lift a finger. Then you were in the wrong town." Sam was quiet for a moment, then softly, "Reckon we were." The women of Miller's Creek had appointed themselves in charge of feeding the workers, and by midday long tables had been set up near the creek, laden with bread and stew and pies that made Jasper's mouth water. He hadn't had a home-cooked pie in close to 10 years. "Mr. McAllister." He looked up to find a woman standing beside his chair, a plate in her hands. She was young, maybe 25, with auburn hair pinned up under a practical bonnet and eyes the color of spring leaves. "Mrs. Sarah Holloway," she said, offering the plate. "We haven't met properly. I run the general store in town." "Ma'am?" He took the plate, more out of reflex than hunger. "Much obliged." "It's the least I can do." She hesitated, then pulled up a crate and sat down beside him. I wanted to thank you for what you did. Just did what needed doing. That's not how I see it."
Her voice was firm but kind. "My husband died 2 years ago, left me with the store and not much else. When Crane's men came around, trying to pressure me into selling, I didn't know what to do. I was scared." Jasper looked at her, really looked. There were shadows under her eyes, and her hands, clasped in her lap, trembled slightly. She'd been through something, was still going through it. "Did they hurt you?" "No, but they made it clear what would happen if I didn't cooperate." She met his gaze. "When I heard what you did, standing up to Crane, protecting those children, it gave me hope. Made me realize that there are still good people in this world. People willing to fight for what's right." "I ain't good, Mrs. Holloway." "Sarah, and I respectfully disagree." Before Jasper could respond, a commotion near the worksite drew their attention. Sam was running toward them, his face flushed with excitement. "Jasper, you gotta come see this!" "I can't exactly run anywhere, son." "Then I'll bring it to you." Sam grabbed his arm and started pulling. "Come on, please, it's important." Jasper let himself be led, leaning heavily on the boy's shoulder. They made their way slowly across the property, past the workers and the lumber piles, until they reached the spot where the old house had stood. And Jasper stopped breathing. Rising from the ashes, rough but recognizable, was the frame of a new house. Not just a cabin, a real house, with multiple rooms and a proper porch. The bones of it were already taking shape, workers swarming over the structure like ants on a hill. "What?" Jasper's voice failed him. He tried again. "What is this?" "It's your house." Sam's eyes were shining. "Well, our house. The town folks got together and decided to make it bigger. Said a family needs space to grow." "A family?" "That's us." Sam squeezed his arm. "Ain't it?" Jasper stared at the rising structure, at the men and women working together to build something from nothing. His throat was tight, his eyes burning. "Yeah," he managed. "That's us." Someone clapped him on the shoulder. Tom Hendricks, hammer in hand, sawdust in his beard. "Hope you don't mind we got a bit ambitious, McAllister. Once we started, folks kept wanting to add things. A room for the girl, a proper kitchen, a barn out back for animals. I don't know how to—" "Don't thank us," Tom grinned. "Just be a good neighbor. That's all any of us ask." Jasper looked around at the faces surrounding him. Farmers and shopkeepers, old folks and young, all of them giving up their time to help a stranger and 2 orphan children. He'd spent so many years alone, convinced that he didn't deserve community, didn't deserve belonging. And now, here it was anyway, surrounding him on all sides. Maybe the world wasn't as dark as he'd believed. Maybe there was still light, if you knew where to look. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough. "All of you." That night, they camped by the creek. The 3 of them huddled around a small fire. The skeleton of the new house loomed nearby, a promise of things to come. Sam had fallen asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the day's excitement. But Ellie was still awake, sitting close to Jasper, her doll clutched against her chest. "Can't sleep?" Jasper asked quietly. She shook her head. "Something on your mind?" For a long moment, she didn't respond. She just stared into the fire, her face flickering with reflected light. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand. This had become a habit between them, this silent communication, this unspoken language of touch and gesture. Jasper had learned to read her expressions, to understand what she needed without words. But tonight, something felt different. "Ellie?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes were bright, intense, like she was trying to tell him something important. "What is it, little one?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, and then, in a voice so small and rusty from disuse that he almost missed it, she spoke. "Safe." Jasper's heart stopped. "What did you say?" "Safe." The word came stronger this time, clearer. "I feel safe." Tears sprang to his eyes. He couldn't stop them, didn't try. He gathered her into his arms, holding her close, feeling her small body tremble against his chest. "You are safe," he whispered into her hair. "I promise you, you're safe." She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. And then, muffled against his shoulder, 2 more words. "Thank you." Jasper couldn't speak. He just held her, rocking gently, letting the tears fall. Somewhere deep inside him, a wound that had been open for years finally began to close. Sam woke to the sound. He sat up, confused, wiping sleep from his eyes. "What's going on? What happened?" Jasper looked at him over Ellie's head. "Your sister talked." Sam went pale. "What?" "She said she feels safe, and she said thank you." For a moment, Sam just stared. Then his face crumpled, and he scrambled over to them, wrapping his arms around both of them, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Ellie," he choked out. "Oh, God, Ellie!" The little girl pulled one arm free and reached for her brother, pulling him into the embrace. The 3 of them held each other in the firelight, this strange, broken, beautiful family that had found each other in the darkness. And somewhere above them, the stars wheeled on, indifferent and eternal, bearing witness to the small miracle unfolding below. The days that followed were filled with wonders. Ellie didn't speak much, a word here, a phrase there, always soft and hesitant. But each word was a gift, a treasure, a sign that she was coming back from wherever she had gone. She said hungry when it was time to eat. She said cold when the wind blew sharp. She said Sam when she wanted her brother, and Jasper when she wanted him. The first time she said his name, Jasper had to turn away so the children wouldn't see him cry. "She's getting better," Sam said one evening, watching his sister chase fireflies near the creek. "Every day, a little bit more." "Kids are resilient." Jasper sat on a log, whittling a piece of wood into what might eventually become a horse. His shoulder still ached, but his hands were steady. "They bounce back." "Do they?" Sam's voice was quiet, thoughtful. "I don't feel like I've bounced back. I still have nightmares. Still see Pa's face sometimes, right before—" He trailed off. Jasper set down his knife. "That's different." "How?" "Because you're not supposed to forget." Jasper looked at him, really looked. "Your pa loved you. He died protecting you. That's not something you bounce back from. That's something you carry with you, every day, for the rest of your life." Sam's eyes glistened. "That sounds heavy." "It is, but it gets lighter." Jasper picked up the knife again, started carving. "Not because the weight changes, but because you get stronger. You learn how to carry it, and eventually it becomes part of you. Not a burden, but a foundation, something to build on." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Is that what happened with you? With the war?" "Something like that." "Do you still have nightmares?" "Every night." "Does it help, talking about it?" Jasper considered the question. He'd never talked about it, not really. He'd buried it deep and hoped it would stay buried. But looking at Sam now, at this boy who was struggling with his own ghosts, he realized that maybe silence wasn't the answer. Maybe it never had been. "I killed a lot of men in the war," he said slowly. "Some of them deserved it. Some of them were just boys, not much older than you, fighting for something they didn't understand." Sam listened without interrupting. "After it ended,
I couldn't stop seeing their faces, couldn't stop hearing their screams. Jasper's hands stilled on the wood. I tried to drink it away, tried to work it away. Nothing helped. So I came out here, figured I'd just be alone until I died. But you didn't die. No, I didn't. He looked at Sam. And then you showed up on my porch, bleeding all over my boots. And suddenly, I had something to live for again. Sam's breath hitched. We saved each other. Reckon we did. So what does that make us? Jasper thought about it. Family, he said finally. That's what it makes us. Sam smiled, a real smile, bright and warm and full of hope. Yeah, family. Ellie came running back then, her hands cupped around something glowing. She stopped in front of Jasper and opened her palms, revealing a single firefly, its light pulsing gently in the darkness. Pretty, she said, her voice soft with wonder. Real pretty, Jasper agreed. She released it, watching it float up into the night sky to join its companions. Then she turned to Jasper, her expression serious. Pa liked fireflies. It was the first time she'd mentioned her father since that night. Did he? She nodded. He used to catch them for me, put them in a jar by my bed so I wouldn't be scared of the dark. Jasper's throat tightened. That sounds like something a good pa would do. He was good. Her voice trembled slightly. He tried to protect us, but the bad men were too strong. He did protect you. Jasper reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. He gave you and Sam time to run, time to find me. Everything that's happened since, this house, this family, it's because of what he did. Ellie considered this. So he's still protecting us, even though he's gone? In a way. His love is still here, in you and your brother. That don't ever go away. She was quiet for a moment. Then she climbed onto the log beside him and leaned against his arm. I love you, Jasper. 4 words. Just 4 simple words. But they hit him harder than any bullet ever had. I love you too, little one. His voice was thick, unsteady. More than I can say. Sam had come over to join them, and now he sat on Jasper's other side. The 3 of them sat there in the gathering dark, watching the fireflies dance, feeling the warmth of each other's presence. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Sam asked. Jasper put an arm around each of them. Yeah, son, we're going to be just fine. The house was finished on the first day of December. It wasn't fancy, but it was solid. 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, a main room with a stone fireplace, a porch that wrapped around the front, perfect for watching sunsets. A barn out back, already home to 2 horses and a milk cow that Mrs. Patterson had insisted on donating. Every family needs a cow, she'd said, brooking no argument. The whole town turned out for the housewarming. Tables were set up in the yard, laden with food and drink. Children ran between the adults' legs, playing games and laughing. Someone had brought a fiddle, and music filled the air. Jasper stood on the porch, watching it all, feeling like he was dreaming. Quite a turnout. Sheriff Whitmore appeared beside him, a cup of cider in his hand. Folks really took to you, McAllister. Can't figure out why. I can. Whitmore took a sip of his cider. You did something most men only talk about. You stood up when it counted. People remember that. I just did what needed doing. That's exactly my point. Whitmore clapped him on the shoulder. That offer still stands, by the way. Town could use a deputy, someone who knows how to handle trouble. I'll think about it. You've been thinking about it for 3 weeks. I'm a slow thinker. Whitmore chuckled. Fair enough, but don't think too long. We need good men, Jasper. Men like you. He wandered off to get more cider, and Jasper was left alone with his thoughts. A deputy. Him. The idea would have seemed laughable a few months ago. He'd been so certain that his fighting days were over, that he had nothing left to offer. But maybe that wasn't true. Maybe there was still work to be done, wrongs to right, people to protect. "What are you thinking about?" Sam had appeared beside him, a plate of food in his hands. "Nothing important." "Liar," the boy grinned. "You've got that look, the one you get when you're planning something." "I don't have a look." "You definitely have a look." Jasper almost smiled. "Fine. Sheriff offered me a job. Deputy." Sam's eyes widened. "Are you going to take it?" "Don't know yet. What do you think?" "I think—" Sam paused, considering. "I think you'd be good at it. Protecting people, standing up for what's right. That's what you do." "It's dangerous work." "So is ranching. So is farming. So is just about everything out here." Sam shrugged. "At least as a deputy, you'd be making a difference." "When did you get so wise?" "Must have rubbed off from you." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the party swirl around them. Ellie was in the yard, playing some kind of clapping game with the Patterson girls. She was laughing, actually laughing, her voice high and bright and beautiful. "She's happy," Sam said softly. "She is. I didn't think I'd ever see her like that again, after everything." He swallowed hard. "I was so scared, Jasper. Scared she'd never come back. Scared I'd lose her too." "You didn't lose her. You saved her." "We saved her," Sam looked at him. "Together." Jasper nodded slowly. "Together." Sarah Holloway approached the men, her cheeks flushed from the cold, a smile on her face. "Mr. McAllister, Sam, quite a celebration." "Ma'am," Jasper tipped his head. "Thank you for coming." "Wouldn't have missed it." She hesitated, then, "I brought something for the children, a housewarming gift." She held out a package wrapped in brown paper. Sam took it, curious, and carefully unwrapped it. Inside were 2 books. One was a primer, the kind used to teach reading. The other was a collection of fairy tales, the cover worn, but the pages still intact. "I know they might not have had much schooling, with everything that happened," Sarah said. "I thought, well, if they wanted to learn—" "This is wonderful." Sam's voice was thick with emotion. "Ellie's gonna love the fairy tales. Mama used to read to her before." He couldn't finish, but Sarah seemed to understand. "Then it's meant to be." "Thank you, Mrs. Holloway." "Sarah," she smiled at both of them. "Call me Sarah." After she left, Sam turned to Jasper with a knowing look. "She likes you." "Don't start." "I'm just saying." "I know what you're saying, and I'm saying don't." But Sam just grinned, unconvinced, and went off to show Ellie her new books. Jasper watched him go, shaking his head. Kids, always thinking they knew everything. But later that night, after the party had wound down and the guests had gone home, Jasper found himself thinking about Sarah Holloway, about her kind eyes and her gentle smile, and the way she'd looked at him like he was something worth seeing. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him like that. He shook off the thought and went to check on the children. Sam was already asleep in his new room, sprawled across the bed like he owned it. Ellie was in her room, the one with the window facing east so she could watch the sunrise. She was sitting up in bed, the fairy tale book open in her lap, her rag doll beside her. "Can't sleep?" Jasper asked from the doorway. She shook her head. "Will you read to me?" 4 months ago, she hadn't spoken a word. Now she was asking him to read her a story. Miracles happened every day, if you knew where to look. "Scoot over," he said. She made room for him, and he settled onto the bed beside her, taking the book.
It fell open to a story about a princess and a dragon and a knight who saved the day. "This one?" She nodded eagerly. So Jasper read. His voice was rough, unpracticed. He hadn't read aloud to anyone in decades. But Ellie didn't seem to mind. She curled up against his side, her eyes following the words, her face soft with wonder. By the time he finished, she was nearly asleep. "Jasper?" "Yeah, little one?" "Are you the knight in the story?" He smiled. "Don't know about that. I'm just an old soldier trying to do right." "I think you're the knight." Her voice was drowsy, fading. "You saved us, just like in the story." "Maybe. But you know what?" "What?" He kissed the top of her head. "You and Sam. You saved me, right back." She smiled, her eyes closing. "Good. That's how families work." "Yeah," Jasper whispered, watching her drift off to sleep. "That's exactly how families work." He sat there for a long time, listening to her breathe, feeling the warmth of her small body against his. Outside, the wind whispered through the cottonwoods, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to the moon. This was his life now. Not the solitude he'd chosen, not the penance he'd thought he deserved. Something better, something real. A home, a family, a reason to keep going. Jasper McAllister had spent years running from his past, convinced that redemption was beyond his reach. But here, in this small room, with this sleeping child beside him, he finally understood the truth. Redemption wasn't something you earned. It was something you built, day by day, choice by choice, one small act of love at a time. And he was just getting started. Spring came slow to Miller's Creek. The snow melted in patches, revealing the brown earth beneath. The creek swelled with runoff, rushing loud and cold past the Thornton property. And on the porch of the new house, Jasper McAllister sat in his chair, watching the world wake up from its long winter sleep. 6 months had passed since that terrible night. 6 months of healing, of rebuilding, of learning what it meant to be a family again. He still had the scars, always would. The bullet wounds had left their marks, on his shoulder, his side, his leg. Some mornings he woke up stiff and aching, feeling every one of his 55 years. But the pain was manageable now, just another part of living. The front door creaked open, and Ellie appeared, still in her nightgown, her dark hair tangled from sleep. "Morning, little one." "Morning." She padded over to him, bare feet on the wooden planks, and climbed into his lap. It had become their routine, this quiet time together before the day began. "Sam's still sleeping." "That boy could sleep through a thunderstorm." "He snores." "Does he now?" Like a bear, she made a rumbling sound in her throat, and Jasper laughed. 6 months ago, she hadn't spoken a word. Now she chattered almost constantly, making up for lost time, filling the house with her voice. It was the sweetest sound Jasper had ever heard. "What are we doing today?" she asked. "I've got to go into town. Sheriff business." "Can I come?" "Don't you have lessons with Mrs. Patterson?" Ellie made a face. "Reading is boring." "Reading is important. How else are you going to learn all those fairy tales?" She considered this. "You could just tell them to me." "I don't know as many as the books do." "Then learn more." Jasper shook his head, smiling. "You're too smart for your own good, you know that?" "Sam says I get it from you." "Sam's full of nonsense." "Sam's right here." The boy appeared in the doorway, yawning, his hair sticking up in every direction. "And I heard that." "Good. Maybe you'll take it to heart."
Sam shuffled over and dropped into the chair beside them.
At 14 now, he was growing fast, taller than Jasper had expected, with the promise of his father's broad shoulders. But his eyes were still young, still capable of wonder. "You riding into town today?" Sam asked. "Yeah, Whitmore wants to go over some things." "Trouble?" "Nothing serious, just some cattle gone missing out at the Henderson place. Probably just wandered off, but we need to check it out." Sam nodded, trying to look casual, but Jasper could see the concern beneath the surface. The boy still worried, still expected danger around every corner. Maybe he always would. "I'll be fine," Jasper said. "Back before supper." "I know." Sam picked at a splinter on the chair arm. "It's just... be careful, okay?" "Always am." Ellie had been watching the exchange with knowing eyes. "Sam worries too much." "Sam worries the right amount," her brother countered. "You worry about everything." "That's because everything can go wrong." "But it hasn't." Ellie's voice was quiet but firm. "Not since Jasper came. Everything's been good." Sam looked at her, then at Jasper. Something shifted in his expression, the worry giving way to something softer. "Yeah," he admitted. "I guess it has." Jasper rode into town an hour later, the spring sun warm on his shoulders. The deputy badge was pinned to his chest, still shiny and new, even after 3 months of wearing it. He'd resisted taking the job at first, didn't think he was the right man for it. But Whitmore had been persistent, and eventually Jasper had run out of excuses. Turned out he was good at it. Not the fighting part, though there'd been some of that. Mostly it was talking, listening, helping folks sort out their problems before they became bigger problems. Jasper had spent so many years alone that he'd forgotten how much he missed being part of something, being useful. The main street was busy when he arrived. Farmers bringing goods to market, women shopping at the general store, children running between the buildings playing some game only they understood. Several people waved as he passed, and he tipped his hat in response. "Deputy McAllister." He turned to see Sarah Holloway standing in front of her store, a broom in her hands and a smile on her face. She'd taken to calling him by his title ever since he'd accepted the job, and no matter how many times he told her to just call him Jasper, she kept at it. He suspected she did it just to see him squirm. "Mrs. Holloway." "Sarah." "Sarah." He pulled his horse to a stop in front of the store. "Fine morning." "It is." She leaned the broom against the wall and walked over to him. "Heading to see the sheriff?" "Yes, ma'am. Cattle business out at the Henderson place." "I heard about that. Tom Henderson was in here yesterday, convinced someone's been stealing from him." "That's what we're going to find out." She nodded, but didn't move away. There was something in her expression. Hesitation, maybe. Or hope. "I was wondering," she said slowly, "if you might be free this Sunday, after church." Jasper's heart did something strange in his chest. "Free for what?" "I'm making a roast. Thought maybe you and the children might like to join me." She paused, color rising in her cheeks. "If you're not too busy." He should say no. He knew he should. Getting involved with anyone, letting anyone get close, was a risk he'd sworn off years ago. People he cared about had a habit of getting hurt. But looking at Sarah now, at her kind eyes and her hopeful smile, he couldn't bring himself to refuse. "We'd like that," he heard himself say. "Thank you." Her face lit up. "Wonderful. Around 2 o'clock?" "We'll be there." She touched his arm briefly, just a brush of fingers, barely there. And then she was gone, disappearing back into her store. Jasper sat on his horse for a moment longer, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. Then he shook his head and rode on. The Henderson situation turned out to be exactly what Jasper had suspected.
A section of fence had come down in a recent storm, and the cattle had wandered through, eventually finding their way to a neighbor's pasture 3 miles away. No theft, no foul play, just the usual chaos of frontier life. He spent the afternoon helping round up the missing animals, and by the time he headed home, the sun was hanging low over the mountains. Sam was waiting for him on the porch. Trouble? Just a broken fence. Jasper dismounted and led his horse toward the barn. Nothing to worry about. Sam fell into step beside him. Ellie made you something. A drawing. She's been working on it all day. What is it? She won't tell me. Says it's a surprise. Jasper smiled. Then I guess I'll have to wait and see. They got the horse settled, and by the time they returned to the house, the smell of something delicious was wafting from the kitchen. Mrs. Patterson had been teaching Sam to cook, said every young man should know how to feed himself, and the boy had taken to it with surprising enthusiasm. Stew? Jasper asked, sniffing appreciatively. Ellie helped. Did she now? I stirred. The little girl appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face smeared with flour for some reason. And I tasted. A lot. I noticed. Sam ruffled her hair. Go get cleaned up. Supper's almost ready. She scampered off, and Jasper watched her go with a warmth in his chest that still surprised him sometimes. This life, this ordinary, everyday life, was something he'd never expected to have, never thought he deserved. But here it was anyway. Hey, Jasper. Yeah? Sam was stirring the stew, his back to the room, but there was something in his voice that made Jasper pay attention. I've been thinking. About Pa. Jasper leaned against the counter. What about him? I used to be so angry, at Crane, at his men, at everyone who didn't help us. Sam's shoulders were tense, his grip on the spoon white-knuckled. But lately, I don't know. The anger's still there, but it's different. Smaller. That's good, son. Is it? Sam turned to face him. Sometimes I feel guilty, like I'm forgetting him by not being angry anymore. Jasper considered his words carefully. Your pa wouldn't want you to carry that anger forever. He'd want you to live, to be happy. How do you know? Because that's what I'd want if I were him. Jasper crossed to the boy and put a hand on his shoulder. You honoring your pa isn't about staying angry at the men who killed him. It's about becoming the man he hoped you'd be. Kind, brave, good. Sam's eyes glistened. I'm trying. I know you are. And you're doing a hell of a job. The boy ducked his head, embarrassed, but Jasper could see the tension leaving his shoulders. These conversations happened more often now. Moments of honesty, of vulnerability, of working through the grief that still lingered beneath the surface. It was slow work, healing, but they were doing it together. Jasper! Ellie's voice rang through the house, excited and impatient. Guess she's ready to show you that drawing, Sam said, wiping his eyes. Guess so. Jasper found her in the main room, standing beside the fireplace with a piece of paper clutched to her chest. Her face was clean now, her hair brushed, and she was practically vibrating with anticipation. Close your eyes, she commanded. Yes, ma'am. He closed them, feeling ridiculous but playing along. He heard her footsteps approach, felt her press the paper into his hands. Okay, you can look. He opened his eyes and looked down at the drawing. It was crude. She was only 8 after all, but the meaning was unmistakable. 3 figures stood in front of a house, holding hands. A tall man with gray hair, a boy with broad shoulders, and a small girl with a rag doll. Beneath the figures, in shaky but legible letters, she had written, Our family. Jasper's throat closed up. He tried to speak, couldn't. Tried again. Do you like it? Ellie's voice was anxious. I worked really hard. I love it. The words came out rough,
broken. I love it more than anything." Her face split into a brilliant smile, and she threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist. He held her tight, this little girl who had come into his life bleeding and broken and silent, who had somehow found her way back to light. "I'm gonna hang it right here," he said, pointing to the mantel above the fireplace, "so everyone can see." "Really?" "Really." Sam had come in from the kitchen, and he was watching them with an expression that was equal parts joy and sorrow. The same expression Jasper suspected was on his own face. "Supper's ready," Sam said softly. They ate together, the three of them, the way they did every night. They talked about their days, about the missing cattle, and the drawing, and the lessons with Mrs. Patterson. They laughed at Ellie's jokes, even the ones that didn't make sense. They planned for tomorrow, chores to be done, places to go, people to see. It was ordinary, mundane, perfect. After supper, Sam washed the dishes while Ellie helped Jasper hang her drawing. They found a nail, hammered it into the wood above the fireplace, and carefully positioned the paper. "There," Jasper stepped back. "What do you think?" Ellie studied it critically. "It's a little crooked." "Adds character," she giggled. "Here's silly." "And you're supposed to be getting ready for bed." 5 more minutes?" 2. 3. 2.5. She considered this. "Deal." Jasper watched her scamper around the room, straightening things that didn't need straightening, prolonging the inevitable. She'd become so different from the silent, terrified child he'd found by the creek. So alive. "Jasper?" "Yeah, little one?" "Are you happy?" The question caught him off guard. He looked at her, really looked, and saw genuine curiosity in her eyes. She wasn't asking to be reassured. She was asking because she wanted to know. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I think I am." "You think?" "I know," he smiled. "I know I'm happy. Happier than I've been in a long, long time." She nodded, satisfied. "Good, because we're happy too. Sam doesn't say it, but I can tell. He smiles more now, laughs more." "I've noticed." "That's because of you." She came over to him, taking his hand in both of hers. "You made us a family again. You gave us a home." "Ellie." "I know Pa's gone. I know Mama's gone. I still miss them every day." Her eyes were bright, but she didn't cry. "But having you, it doesn't make the missing go away. It just makes it easier to carry." Jasper knelt down so they were eye to eye. "That's exactly right, little one. That's exactly what family does." She hugged him then, fierce and tight, her small arms surprisingly strong. He held her until she was ready to let go, then stood and watched her run off to her room. Sam was leaning in the kitchen doorway, watching. "You heard that?" Jasper asked. "Every word." "Smart kid." "The smartest." Sam pushed off from the doorframe and walked over to the fireplace, studying Ellie's drawing. "She's right, you know, about you making us a family." "You two made yourselves a family. I just got included." "That's not how she sees it. Not how I see it either." Sam turned to face him. "I've been meaning to say something. Should have said it months ago, probably, but I couldn't find the words." "You don't have to." "Yeah, I do." The boy took a breath. "When Pa died, I thought my life was over. I thought the best I could hope for was to survive, to keep Ellie safe, to make it through one day at a time. I never imagined we'd actually be happy again." Jasper stayed silent, letting him speak. "But then you came along, a stranger with a rifle and a death wish, who had every reason to turn us away and didn't, who fought for us, bled for us, nearly died for us.
Sam's voice cracked. And I keep thinking, why? We were nobody to you. Just two kids with trouble on our heels. You were never nobody. We were to everyone else. I'm not everyone else. Sam laughed, a short, wet sound. No, you definitely aren't. He crossed the room and stopped in front of Jasper, looking up at him with those young old eyes that had seen too much. I never thought I'd have a father again, he said quietly. Not after what happened to Pa. But these past months, watching you with Ellie, watching you with me, I realized something. What's that? Family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's showing up day after day, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. He swallowed. You've shown up for us every single day, and I need you to know how much that means. Jasper's chest was tight, his eyes burning. He put his hands on the boy's shoulders, this brave, wounded, beautiful boy who had become a son to him in every way that mattered. Sam Thornton, he said, his voice rough. The night you stumbled onto my porch, you saved my life. I was dying out here, not in my body, but in my soul. I'd given up on everything, on the world, on people, on myself. Sam was crying now, tears streaming down his face, but he didn't look away. You and your sister gave me a reason to fight again, a reason to live. Jasper pulled him into an embrace, holding him tight. I didn't save you that night. You saved me, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that. Sam held on like he'd never let go, his shoulders shaking with sobs. I love you, Jasper. I know I ain't said it before, but I do. I love you. I love you too, son. The word came easy now, natural, right. I love you too. They stayed like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other together, finding strength in the connection between them. Sunday came bright and clear. Jasper put on his good shirt, the one Sarah had mended for him after he'd torn it on a fence post, and helped the children get ready. Sam grumbled about having to wear a collar, and Ellie insisted on bringing her rag doll, and by the time they were finally out the door, they were running late for church. It didn't matter. The service was long and the preacher was long-winded, and Jasper spent most of it watching the dust motes float in the shafts of light through the windows. But he sang the hymns when everyone else did, and he bowed his head for the prayers, and when it was over, he felt something that might have been peace. Sarah was waiting for them outside, looking pretty in a blue dress that matched her eyes. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready." Her house was small but cozy, filled with the smell of roasting meat and fresh bread. The children took to it immediately, Sam making himself useful in the kitchen, Ellie exploring every corner with undisguised curiosity. "You've got a lot of books," Ellie announced, standing in front of a crowded shelf. "I do," Sarah agreed. "Do you like books?" "Jasper reads to me every night." "Does he now?" Sarah shot him an amused look. "I didn't know you were a reader, Deputy McAllister." "There's a lot you don't know about me, Mrs. Holloway." "Sarah." "Sarah." She smiled, and something warm unfurled in Jasper's chest. He'd been alone for so long that he'd forgotten what this felt like. This easy back and forth, this simple pleasure of being with someone who understood you. Maybe it was time to stop forgetting. Dinner was delicious, the conversation easy. Sarah asked about the children's lessons, about Jasper's work, about the house and the land and their plans for the future. She listened with genuine interest, laughing at the right moments, asking questions that showed she cared. After the meal, Sam and Ellie went outside to play in the small garden behind the house, leaving Jasper and Sarah alone. "They're wonderful," Sarah said, watching them through the window. "You've done an amazing job with them." "They did most of the work themselves." Don't sell yourself short." She turned to face him. "I know what those children were like when they first came to town. Broken, frightened, barely holding together. And now look at them. Sam's becoming a fine young man, and Ellie—" She smiled. "Ellie's a miracle." "She is that." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, "My husband died 2 years ago. Did I tell you that?" "You mentioned it." "What I didn't mention was how lost I was after. How empty." She looked down at her hands, clasped in her lap. "I thought I'd never feel whole again, never feel like myself. And then, slowly, I started to find my way back. Through the store, through the community, through helping others." "That's how it works sometimes." "Yes." She looked up at him. "And sometimes you find your way back through people, through connections, through letting someone in, even when it's terrifying." Jasper's heart was pounding. "Sarah, I'm not asking for anything." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were vulnerable. "I just want you to know that I see you, Jasper McAllister. I see the man you are, not the man you think you are. And I think maybe we could be good for each other, if you're willing to try." He should say no. He should protect her from himself, from his past, from all the ways he could hurt her. That was what he'd always done, pushed people away before they could get too close. But looking at her now, at this brave, kind woman who had opened her heart to him despite everything, he realized that pushing people away wasn't protecting them. It was protecting himself. And he was tired of being afraid. "I'd like that," he said. "I'd like to try." Her smile was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "Really?" "Really." She reached across the table and took his hand. Her fingers were warm, steady, sure. "Then let's try together." 5 years later, Jasper stood on the porch of the house they built together, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. So much had changed. Sam was 19 now, a man grown, working alongside Jasper as a deputy, talking about studying law in the city someday. He had his father's shoulders and his mother's eyes, and a heart big enough to hold all the pain he'd suffered and still find room for love. Ellie was 13, fierce and bright and full of opinions about everything. She'd become the best reader in the county, devouring books faster than Sarah could supply them, dreaming of becoming a teacher someday. She still had her rag doll, though she'd long since outgrown it, kept it on a shelf in her room, a reminder of where she'd been and how far she'd come. And Sarah. Sarah had become his wife 3 years ago, in a small ceremony by the creek where he'd first found Ellie hiding. She'd brought light back into his life in ways he hadn't known were possible, had filled the empty spaces with laughter and warmth and a love so steady it felt like bedrock. They were a family now, a real one. "What are you thinking about?" He turned to find Sarah beside him, her auburn hair streaked with gray now, her eyes still as green as spring leaves. "Just remembering," he said. "Remembering what?" "The night it all began. 2 children on my porch. A choice I didn't know I was making." She slipped her hand into his. "Do you ever regret it?" "Not for 1 second." From inside the house, he could hear Sam and Ellie arguing about something. Probably whose turn it was to wash dishes. Their voices rose and fell, familiar and comfortable. The sound of home. "They're at it again," Sarah said, smiling. "They wouldn't be family if they weren't." She laughed, leaning into him. "True enough." They stood there together, watching the light fade, listening to the sounds of the life they'd built. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. There were still hard days, still moments when the past came rushing back, still scars that ached when the weather changed. But it was theirs. Every struggle, every joy, every ordinary moment in between.
Jasper?
Yeah?
Thank you.
Sarah's voice was soft.
For letting us in. For choosing this.
He thought about the man he'd been 5 years ago, broken, isolated, convinced he was beyond redemption. He thought about the long road from there to here, all the pain and healing and growth along the way. I didn't choose this, he said finally. This chose me. All I did was stop running long enough to let it catch up. That's not nothing. No, he squeezed her hand. I reckon it's everything. The door banged open, and Ellie burst onto the porch, her cheeks flushed with indignation. Sam says it's my turn to wash, but I did it yesterday, and he's lying, and— Both of you can wash, Sarah said calmly. Together. But— Together. Ellie huffed, but there was no real anger in it. She stomped back inside, yelling for her brother, and a moment later, the sound of splashing water and continued bickering filtered out through the windows. Jasper smiled. Guess I better go supervise. Guess you better. But before he went inside, he paused, taking one last look at the land around him. The fields, the mountains, the endless sky turning purple with twilight. He'd spent so many years believing he was alone, believing he deserved to be alone. But the truth was, nobody walked this world by themselves. Not really. We were all connected, all bound together by the choices we made and the love we gave and the moments we shared. Family wasn't something you were born into. It was something you built, brick by brick, day by day, with every small act of courage and kindness and faith. And Jasper McAllister had built something beautiful. He walked back into the house, into the warmth and noise and chaos of his family, and closed the door behind him. Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. The wind rustled through the cottonwoods by the creek, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and new growth. And somewhere in the distance, a coyote called out to the rising moon. But inside the house on the hill, there was only light and laughter and love. And that was enough. That was everything.